Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry for my extended absence. I'm trying to wrap up our end of homeschool year right now, and things are just super crazy. It has just been like a couple of weeks of absolute insanity. So anyhow, in today's video, I want to share my favorite way to use sale bananas. So Kroger had an amazing banana sale last week where it was 50 cents for 2 pounds of bananas. It was absolutely bonkers. So I just bought, this was several weeks ago actually, I bought a bunch of bananas and then I peeled them and stuck them in freezer bags, and then I make banana bread with them. And that's pretty much the only way that we eat bananas. We do not like bananas in smoothies or just by themselves. So banana bread is about the only way that they get eaten around here. So anyways, I pulled a bag of frozen bananas out the night before and got them thawing, and they turned brown, of course, but that's fine. And that was 2 pounds of bananas in that bag. So it's going to make about 3 loaves of banana bread. This particular recipe, I don't remember where I got it, but it always turns out so well, and you can like very easily adapt it and customize it. Like I have a friend who does it with gluten-free flour and it turns out for her. We're not gluten-free, but I am just working on doing more things from scratch. So this was one of the ways to cheaply get a bunch of extra calories for the growing boys in the house. So I'm not a huge fan of banana bread myself. I don't love bananas. It's just not my favorite fruit. So when I make this, it's usually like one of those things that we just have on the counter, and then when anybody needs a snack, there's your snack. So anyhow, this is going to be for 1 loaf of banana bread. You'll see here in the video that I like triple it. But for 1 loaf, you'll need 3 to 5 very ripe bananas that are medium or large size. You'll need a 1/2 cup of room temperature butter, 3/4 cup of sugar of choice. I've made this recipe with coconut sugar and cane sugar and regular old white sugar and erythritol and sugar replacements, and it has worked every time. So use whatever sugar you want. You're gonna need 2 eggs, 1 1/2 cups of flour of choice. I'm using all-purpose here, but I have done this with bread flour, pastry flour, whole wheat flour. I don't think that it really matters. I don't think this bread cares. You're gonna need a teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. I just always eyeball that. I don't ever measure it. 1 cup of walnuts if you're into that sort of thing, and 1/2 cup of mini chocolate chips. Again, you can, if you don't do the walnuts and the chocolate chips, you can do something else. You can do chopped up cherries with chocolate chips. You can do white chocolate chips with macadamia nuts. Like really, the sky's the limit on this. You can customize your add-ins. Just keep it to about 1.5 cups of add-ins of any kind. So you can really go just completely wild here. In the background, I forget what I'm doing. I am sauteing something, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, I was making grits. That's what I was doing. Our city group, our like life group, small group, I forget what you call it, but our small Bible group had a Southern themed dinner night. So one of the guys fried up alligator. Remember, we are in Florida. And somebody else made chicken and waffles, and I brought cheese grits. So it was delicious. But anyways, all you're gonna do here is you're gonna preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And then you're going to grease or oil a bread pan or an 8x8 baking pan. Either one will work. You can do this in a bundt pan. You can do this however you want, whatever shape pan you'd like, it will still work. And you're gonna mix together the wet ingredients until very well blended. So that's what I'm doing here. I put all the wet ingredients in this big bowl first. Remember, I like double and a half or tripled this recipe, so there's a lot going on here. But I'm just mushing up the eggs, the bananas, the vanilla, all the wet ingredients first. And I think I poured melted butter in there. And the only reason I poured melted butter in there instead of room temp butter was because I had forgotten to take butter out of the freezer the night before. So I had to toss it in the microwave and soften it that way. And that always makes it melty. So it still worked. Like I'm telling you, you cannot mess this up. It will work every time. So yeah, so you're just going to mix all the dry or the wet ingredients really well. And then I put the dry ingredients in a separate bowl and give those a stir. You don't have to do that, but sometimes my baking soda, because it's like, it doesn't have any additives, it'll get a little lumpy. So I prefer to add my dry ingredients to a different dish first. Oh, I guess I didn't add the butter yet. I should probably pay attention to what I'm doing instead of looking at my recipe. But anyways, you can see here like I'm struggling to open the butter because it is frozen solid. And I was like, well, I'm just going to nuke it. Normally I would try to like plan ahead, but I just did not. And that's how life works sometimes. So anyways, you can add all kinds of stuff, fun stuff to this bread. One of our favorites is white chocolate chips with cherry. And sometimes I'll skip the sugar altogether because the bananas themselves are plenty sweet. It just depends on what I'm doing. You can also add a scoop or two of protein powder of choice to this. Vanilla or chocolate is always a good choice. You can add collagen. You can make this like a protein banana bread. I have done that before. It will make it a little bit more dense or chewy, but it's just fine if you toast it. If you see, I'm not even measuring the salt. I'm just guessing. Again, you cannot mess this recipe up. So you're good. You know, you can just eyeball it. But if you do decide to add extra protein to the banana bread, like protein powder or collagen, just be aware that it is going to make the bread just a little bit more dense, which, I mean, banana bread is already pretty dense, so that's something to consider. One way that you can kind of combat the texture issue with adding extra protein is by toasting your banana bread. So slice it somewhat thin, butter it, and then toss it on a griddle or put it into the toaster and then butter it when you take it out. Either way, toasting it a little bit and giving it a little bit of a crisp edge will make it much more palatable if you don't like mushy dense texture. So that's one way that you can kind of combat if you're going to add the extra protein. So all I'm doing up here is slicing or chopping some walnuts. I had a bag in the pantry that I really wanted to use up. And I could have tossed these into the Vitamix, but honestly, I just did not feel like dirtying the blender at the time. As you can see, I have a sink full of dishes there out of the shot because it has just, like I said, been one of those weeks where I have not had a clean sink, like basically the whole week. During our end of year for homeschool, we do a bunch of there's a bunch of projects that my son is wrapping up. There's a bunch of things that I'm trying to schedule out for summer. And I'm trying to schedule our annual evaluation, trying to see if maybe we should do testing this year or not. We're pretty blessed again to be in Florida, so there aren't real rigorous demands on homeschoolers here, which is really phenomenal. But it's just like one of those things that it sneaks up on you. Like, I cannot believe it is already May. I'm recording this in April, but I'll be posting it in May, I think. And it's just bonkers to believe that we're already that far into the year. This year has absolutely flown by. So this week, I'm going to be doing a bunch of baking. I have 8 quarts of sourdough starter, maybe more, sourdough discard that I need to deal with. I've been working on a ton of little around the house / garden projects, mostly trying to get a compost bin thrown together, a compost pit or, I don't know, container or something. I don't need it to last very long. I just need it for now. We have a lot of deadfall on our property that we really need to clean up. It's fire season. There have been wildfires like pretty much every day. I guess I shouldn't call them wildfires because it's only usually a couple acres, but it's been just a very consistent thing happening. So like, I guess they call them vegetation fires. Florida's really, really good. Our county is really good about doing prescribed burns, and taking care of a lot of that stuff. But private property owners are supposed to do it for themselves, like clear all the brush out and everything. And we have just been so busy, we haven't had time to do that. And now that there's like fires popping up all the time, it's just a really good reminder to make sure that we are stewarding the space that God has given us really well. So I kind of threw together a compost bin the other day using cattle panel and some wooden stakes that I had. And I realized that as we started chopping up dead palm fronds and putting them into the bin, that I was going to need a whole lot more space to do this. So I'm going to try to see if I can't pick up some pallets this weekend and create some sort of makeshift pallet composting system, just to have more space. But anyways, here I am adding the dry ingredients and getting those all squared away. I'm going to add that melted butter in with the chocolate chips and the walnuts. And then I'm just going to give that a stir. And then once I stir the dry ingredients, I will add those to the wet ingredients. And it's that simple. It really does not take that long to throw all this together. And remember, I'm making 3 loaves. And I could have made them thicker, honestly. I probably could have poured this into 2 loaf pans. But as I was looking at it, I decided that I just wanted 3 loaves so I could have 1 in the fridge and 2 in the freezer. And then this freezes beautifully. So you can make plenty of bread ahead of time and then pull it out as you need it, because it also thaws beautifully. And you just freeze this by wrapping it real tight in plastic wrap after it's been completely cooled, and then shoving those loaves into a plastic freezer bag. And you can kind of stack them like that too. And you can do this as muffins, which make a great like quick grab breakfast, especially if you add the extra protein in there. And you can also do these in mini loaves, which make a cute little gift for like housewarming or, you know, just whatever, little thinking about you gifts. I love to do that. I love to take my neighbors over a little baked good now and then. And we don't have neighbors close, but I will drop by with some fresh bread or some fresh fruit, whatever we've got going on the homestead that week. So my neighbors call me the pioneer woman sometimes, and I know they're doing it jokingly, but it's cute. It's a cute thing. So I'm just going to give that a quick fold. You don't want to over mix this because it's already tending to be dense. You don't want it to be dense and tough. So I just kind of stir it until all of the dry ingredients are incorporated. But I'm not looking for it to be like any sort of smooth consistency or anything like that. That's just not going to happen. And honestly, I probably could have added a little bit more flour here. I'm a big consistency person. I'll follow the recipe, but then as I'm looking at it, I might just be like, well, this is a little extra wet because, you know, you can't control the liquid in a banana. Unless you're going to weigh it all out, and I'm not doing that. So I definitely could have added a little bit more flour here and it still would have been fine. So I'm just going to grab these loaf pans. My husband got me these loaf pans for Christmas and I am completely obsessed with them. They are the Nordic Ware aluminum pans, I think, the 1.5 pound loaf pans. They are the perfect size for sandwich bread, banana bread, breakfast bread. Like, they just worked so well for this particular, bread, even sourdough. I'll toss my sourdough loaves in there too. They're just like, they're a little bit bigger than your average loaf pan, but they're not gigantic. And so they allow for a lot of expansion, which I really appreciate. And they're just super easy to clean too. So like a quick wipe out. They are like truly nonstick without having a ton of chemicals loaded into them. And so here all I'm doing is giving them a little spray with some avocado oil. You probably wouldn't even have to do that. I just did it just in case, but like this bread is pretty moist, so it's not gonna stick. It's probably just not a problem that you're gonna end up having. So I'm going to split this into thirds and pour a third of the batter into each of the pans. And then it's going to bake at 350 for well over an hour. All 3 loaves took probably, I'm going to guess, an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. And I covered them at the hour mark with tin foil. So all I did was take a sheet of tin foil and laid it over top of all 3 loaves, because I had all 3 loaves on the same rack. And then at the hour mark, when the tops started to brown, I put the tin foil over top to stop the browning, but to continue the baking because the insides still weren't set. And I find that to be absolutely true for all like wet bread recipes. I can't trust the recipe to actually tell me the truth about how long that the thing is going to take to bake. So I'm just letting you know that this recipe took more than an hour to bake completely through. And no, it wasn't burned or crispy or anything like that. But at 350, it took probably an hour and 40 minutes. I kind of just stopped counting after the hour. I know it was about an hour and 30, an hour and 40 minutes. But anyways, it also could have been because these were super moist bananas. So, it just took longer for some of the liquid to bake out and to firm up. So anyways, but these all turned it out super delicious. Turned out super delicious. And I right away we cut into one as soon as we basically got it out of the oven because the boys were hungry. It's funny how as soon as something comes out of the oven, we're starving. But so they had banana bread snacks for a couple of days, and then I always cut my husband a slice and send him off to work with that. And it's good. Like I said, I am just not a banana fan. So if anything tastes like remotely banana, I'm like, ew. And I'll still have a slice from time to time, but just not my favorite. So I would rather have zucchini bread, honestly, but I have not been really successful in growing zucchini here. That's another story for another day. Bananas are simple to grow in Florida. Zucchinis, not so much. So I'm just going to pop these into the oven. And like I said, do not be surprised if you follow this recipe and it takes more than an hour for them to cook completely through. I'm just showing you this book that I found on Amazon. It was an empty recipe book. And I just started jotting down all of the recipes, my favorite like baking recipes into this particular book. And I think I'm going to order some more because I would really love to have books that I can hand down to my son's wife. Like, I hope that she is learning to bake right now. I'm praying for her. So into the oven these go. And then I'm just going to set the timer for 60 minutes because that lets me know when to put the tin foil on. And I'm going to walk away. And, also, I got a new microphone. That's also part of the reason that it took me so long to upload a video, that I wanted to try this new microphone out because I think my old microphone was causing some interference and static issues. So here's the end result. So you can see they didn't rise a whole ton, but they did have a small rise. And they turned out absolutely delicious. And I managed to clean some of the dishes out of the sink. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of the new subscribers. I appreciate the comments, the likes. But the number one thing you can do to help my channel, if you're interested, is share this with a friend who you think might find the content helpful, edifying, and enlightening. All right, thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye. Love you.